Hello everyone, I hope you're doing very well wherever you happen to be in the world. Today I want to talk about Criterion sales because we are in the month of November and that of course means Black Friday and sales galore. And here in the UK we have a sale on Criterions. We have 2 for £25 and this happens to be running alongside the sale over in America at Barnes & Noble 50% off. So I'm going to talk about 8 titles in this video. Hopefully you'll be interested in at least one of them, and you can take this recommendation no matter where you are in the world, whether you're here in rainy old England or whether you're in North America. Oh, and if you want to purchase any of these 8 titles I'm about to talk about, if you want to support the channel, you can purchase them through the links that I'll be providing in the description and comment section down below, and that's at no additional cost to you. The first film that I would like to talk about today is Lost in America. This is directed by Albert Brooks, written by Albert Brooks along with Monica Johnson, and starring Albert Brooks along with Julie Hegarty. Now, this is one of those films which I don't hear a lot of people talking about, quite frankly, and I don't hear many people talking about Albert Brooks in general. He's one of those wizards of cinema who can write, direct, and star in the same film, and let's be honest, you don't get many people that can pull off all of those aspects, but he certainly does. The film is about this young couple who are very successful, but they are bored in their careers, and they make the impulsive move to sell all of their stuff, take all of their savings, and go on the road, where they renew their wedding vows, but they run into a bit of a hitch. I won't go too much into the story because I don't want to spoil anything, but basically they run into some money troubles very quickly. Now, this is a comedy, but that does not mean there are no important messages in the film. And for someone who is into personal finance and money and stuff like that, because I work in finance and I'm an economics graduate, this film makes me very anxious because it just shows how one bad decision on impulse can just totally ruin you financially. So yeah, even though it's a comedy, kind of makes me a bit anxious watching it, but it's a brilliant film, and the Criterion edition is brilliant as well. It's got some great special features on there, so that's why I would recommend Lost in America. Next up, we're sticking with comedy, but we're talking the screwball variety. It's The Lady Eve. This is the film from Preston Sturges, who is one of the very best directors at making screwball comedies. He made Sullivan's Travels, which is one of my all-time favourites, but this film is absolutely stellar, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda in just absolutely brilliant roles. Henry Fonda in a role that you don't really think of him as. You think of 12 Angry Men, or maybe even Once Upon a Time in the West. This role is completely different, and Barbara Stanwyck is, as ever, amazing. The story is Barbara Stanwyck plays this con woman who wants to con Henry Fonda out of his large fortune, but he's a bit of a bumbling idiot. He's a bit oblivious to everything, and during the course of the story some romance ensues and it gets very complicated, but it's funny and dazzling all throughout. So that's why I would recommend The Lady Eve, a brilliant package from Criterion, and at this price in 2 for £25, I don't see why you wouldn't. Now for a film that is most definitely not a comedy, I have Stalker from Andrei Tarkovsky. Now, you may have heard of this film, you may have not. If you have heard of it but not seen it, you've probably heard people praise this as one of the greatest films of all time. Or you may have heard Tarkovsky referred to as the best filmmaker of all time. What people don't tell you is his films can be a bit difficult to get to grips with when you first watch them. And I was one of these people that struggled with his films. I was not completely taken by them. A lot of people say that they're quite slow, they're quite philosophical, they take a lot of time to get going, and sometimes they don't even go at all in terms of what we're used to in cinema. It's a film that takes on a science fiction premise, but it isn't really a science fiction film. Like I said, it's very philosophical and contemplative, if that's the right word. But it's not your typical science fiction film. It's about these three guys who go into this mysterious zone where the laws of physics don't quite work as we know them in our lives, and they're searching for something that is deeply important to them. It's a film that honestly took me a few viewings to actually really appreciate, but I now consider it one of my favourite films of all time. And there are so many images within this film that just stick with me. And even though I don't know what they mean, I don't know what they mean to me, they just pop into my head sometimes. So it's one of those films. If you're not familiar with Tarkovsky, it might not be the best one to start with, but if you're feeling bold, then I would recommend Stalker at this price. Okay, we've gone too serious. Let's get back to comedy. I have Man Godfrey. Now, this is another screwball comedy, a bit like The Lady Eve that I recommended before, but this is my favourite. This is my favourite screwball comedy, and I'm fine going on record saying that. I might have mentioned this in a video before, but it's just one of those absolutely amazing examples of the genre. It's this farcical story about this man who is a forgotten man. Essentially, he's homeless, and he gets wrapped up with this wealthy family as a bit of a joke. He just kind of stumbles into their lives, but they all become dependent on him, enamored by him, all the while he's looking at them thinking, what the hell are these people on? They're just crazy. And it's done so energetically. The comedy is sharp and witty, and I just think it has some of my favourite performances of all time in any comedy film. And the Criterion edition is perfect. So if that sells you on it, please do check out Man Godfrey. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please do subscribe to the channel for more Criterion Collection content. I want to make a lot more videos like this one, so if I hear that enough people like this video, then I will be making much more. Anyway, let's get back to my picks. Moving into thriller territory now, we have Lute. This is from Alan J. Pakula. And this is part of this trilogy of paranoia with All the President's Men and The Parallax View. Now, they're loosely related, in fact, narratively not related at all, so you don't have to have watched those other two films. It's just a great example of, like I said, paranoia and how people cope with paranoia when there's perhaps some kind of elusive plot going on behind the scenes. The film is just a perfect example of, like I mentioned, that paranoid thriller that was so prevalent in the 1970s. And that's part of the reason why the 1970s is my favourite decade for American cinema, but perhaps more on that another time. In this film, you have incredible direction, you've got impeccable photography from Gordon Willis, you have acting from Donald Sutherland and Jane Fonda, and I must say, even though the film is called Lute and that's Donald Sutherland's character, the film is Jane Fonda's film and she is the main character and she is just absolutely incredible. I know some people don't think Jane Fonda is a great actress. She is, and this film is a prime example of that. So definitely check this out if you're looking for something to buy in this sale. This next film is from one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, a real discovery for me during these last few years. The film is Taste of Cherry from Iranian director Abbas Kiarostami. Now this film, the story sounds very heavy, and it kind of is, but the film is more poetic than depressing. The story is about this man who wants to kill himself, and he's trying to find someone who will bury him after he's done the deed because of the taboos in society and religion in that part of the world. It's a very complex film, and it's all about conversations and philosophizing and trying to work out the meaning of things. And Kiarostami was famous for blending reality and fiction in terms of filmmaking, and you definitely see that seep into this film. There's a lot of scenes set within cars, and that's a theme that runs through Kiarostami's films, and he does car scenes better than pretty much anyone else. I'll definitely say that. So if you're in for that kind of almost transcendent kind of storytelling, I definitely think you should check out Taste of Cherry from Kiarostami. This next film is from a big dog, Mr. Martin Scorsese himself, The Age of Innocence. Now, this is a film that I have watched a few times now, and each time I watch it, I love it even more, to the point where now I'm pretty okay with saying it's my favourite Scorsese film, which sounds absolutely sacrilege to many people because of the weight of his filmography. I mean, he's made so many good films. How can I choose this one that is pretty much an obscure, period piece? It doesn't make sense when he's made Goodfellas, Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, etc., etc. But honestly, for me, this is my kind of film. And that's not to say anything about his other films. I love them. But this one in particular just gets better each and every time. The film is based on the novel by Edith Wharton, and it focuses on high class in New York. This young man is engaged to be married to this girl, but he ends up becoming enamoured by her cousin when she comes to visit, and love triangle ensues. There are great performances from Daniel Day-Lewis, Winona Ryder, and Michelle Pfeiffer, but the reason I love it is for Scorsese's direction and the way the film looks. Particularly because it actually harkens back to two of my favourite films, which I think Scorsese is very fond of as well. I'm talking about The Leopard from Luchino Visconti and Barry Lyndon from Stanley Kubrick. Now, there's connections in terms of the grandeur of those films, and particularly the ballroom scene at the start of this movie definitely is taken from the pages of The Leopard. So I don't know what to say. If you're a fan of those two films in particular, definitely check out The Age of Innocence. Now, this last film is one that is particularly special to me, and I want as many people to run out and buy this as possible, because I think it truly is special, like I say. It is Something Wild. This is directed by Jonathan Demme. Now, Jonathan Demme is most notable for directing The Silence of the Lambs, or perhaps Stop Making Sense, which is the Talking Heads concert film. Or he's made a bunch of documentaries. He made Rachel Getting Married, he made Married to the Mob. So many great films, but very different films. And yeah, this film is nothing like Silence of the Lambs, except for how it focuses on characters and fills in the space between words and really puts them in a place that feels real and doesn't feel like some movie set or movie location. The film revolves around Jeff Daniels' character, who is this normal business guy, but he gets wrapped up in the world of Melanie Griffith's character, who is this wild, zany girl. And it's totally off the wall, and they couldn't be more different. But as the film goes along, and it's one of those kind of romances where they realise, they're more similar than they thought originally. Like I said before, Demme is amazing at putting characters in a place and making them feel real and genuine. And that's why I love this film. It's also a bit of a road trip across America, and you see all these weird different characters along the way, just some little cameos and stuff like that. John Waters is in this film, of all people. So for all those reasons, this is just one of those films that I can't recommend enough, and I don't think enough people have seen this one. So please do give it a try. There you go. Those are my 8 recommendations for films that you can pick up during these Criterion sales. No matter where you are in the world, if you're in the UK, you can buy them 2 for £25, or if you're in the US, you can go along to Barnes & Noble and get them 50% off. I'll be back with more videos very soon, and I can make more Criterion videos if this is the kind of thing that you enjoy. Please do let me know by liking this video and commenting down below and subscribing to the channel, because all of those things really do help me know what you're enjoying. Until we meet again, stay well and keep watching great films.